Greetings, fellow detectives. Wizard Kitten here, bringing you my review of the 30th mystery in the Nancy Drew series, Nancy Drew the Shattered Medallion. As usual, my reviews are based on 5 separate categories. Those categories are plot, characters, setting and design, entertainment and gameplay value, and music and vibe. Each of those categories is scored on a scale of 1 to 10, and then those categories are added up for a final total possible score out of 50, and then I assign each game a letter grade as well. Just a brief warning, this review will contain some mild plot spoilers and maybe even some moderate plot spoilers because I have a lot to talk about with this one, and things may get into the spoilery territory. I definitely won't be giving any major spoilers away, but just a brief warning if that's something that you are worried about. So without further ado, let's get into the plot of The Shattered Medallion. So this mystery takes place in New Zealand, and it starts off essentially with Bess having managed to get George and Nancy on a reality TV show called Pacific Run. And this is a survivor-type reality TV show where teams compete kind of in the wilderness. They're solving puzzles, they're supposed to be making alliances and things like that, and they're supposed to get the most points and find pieces of a medallion, which is where we get the title of this game. There's 5 different pieces of this medallion, and whoever assembles their medallion first and does well with the puzzles and does things the fastest will win this reality TV show. So that sounds pretty well and good, and then when Nancy and George get to New Zealand for this reality show, we find out that Sunny June is the producer of the show. And for fans who have been playing the Nancy Drew games up to this point, Sunny June is a mysterious figure who has appeared in multiple games before this. We first see him in Secret of the Scarlet Hand, and then he appears in Danger by Design, Phantom of Venice, Ransom of the Seven Ships, Captive Curse he is referenced. So he shows up a lot. We see him a lot. So this is the first mystery where we actually are supposed to get a little bit of resolution to that. So we start off with pretty straightforward game show plot, and then we find out that Sunny June is now the producer of this game show, and then we're kind of thrown into the Sunny June plot, where we are there to help Sunny figure out a mystery that his grandfather has presented him while still simultaneously participating in the game show. Now, I have many things to say about the plot, but first I think it might be helpful if I read the summary of what I am looking for when I am scoring plot, so I don't sound too harsh. The main focus of this category is the storyline of the game and whether or not it holds up to scrutiny. Is the story easy to follow? Is the plot original but still believable? Are there several subplots that fit in well with the main plot and add to it? In addition to the storyline, this category also considers how cohesive the game is as a whole. If the game is sporadic or overly complicated, it would not receive a good score in this category. To talk about the plot, I think I want to bring up all of the problems that I have with the plot. And we're going to attack this by looking at the game show plot and the Sunny June plot because, let's face it, they're 2 completely different plots and they do not work well together. Starting with the game show plot, we are thrown immediately into the game show at the start of this mystery, which appears to have already started. See, some of the teams already have points, and at the same time we're introduced to Sunny June, who again, many fans have been very excited to meet for the first time. All of this happens in a matter of seconds. There's this weird announcer that comes up on the TV, and I assume we're supposed to be watching it like we're watching the TV and we're watching runs of the show, but it's weird. That wouldn't happen if you were actually there filming the show. Producers and announcers would be talking to you directly and they would be real people. We wouldn't be seeing the show itself. And this show, the people on it are talking about things that have happened, like with the producer, like, don't make us come down there, Sunny. Like, Sunny is messing up the show. They wouldn't say that. That's not a thing that would happen. So everything gets very convoluted very quickly. There aren't even game show producers and crew in this mystery. Sunny has essentially managed to divert them, so there's no crew and there's no cameras. So why is the game show even moving forward? And why is everyone still competing if there aren't any cameras to actually film the show? All of the other characters continue to try and win this game show, but there's literally no crew or cameras there. There's Sunny, and he's clearly not videotaping anyone. So what's the point of even participating if there isn't even anything to put on TV? Why are we all still doing this? If that was the original impetus for getting us to New Zealand, and they just decided, okay, well, Sunny's gonna hijack the show, then we shouldn't continue to compete in the show, because clearly the show is no longer a thing. But regardless, everyone still competes in the show, and we have problems from the very first task. Nancy is walking around, doing her thing. She talked to George before, and George essentially says that she'll do the research and Nancy should do the field work. And then what happens? We come to this bridge. George pops up out of nowhere and wanders onto the bridge, and danger ensues. Why? She wasn't with Nancy up to that point, so what's the deal? Like, why did she get there? The deal is that the script needed a reason to get there so that danger could ensue and drama and something would happen to George. That is lazy writing. George was not with us before that. We were not talking to George. George appears out of nowhere, literally just so something dangerous could happen to make us think that this game actually had some danger and intrigue. Lazy writing. Not okay. Also lazy writing, no matter how quickly you go after the medallions, your points will always be the same, and there's nothing that you can do to actually win or lose the contest on your own. So again, why are we even competing in this game show if there are no actual stakes? You could literally walk around, do anything you want, hang out in the puzzle palace and play minigames for hours on end, and you will still find the medallion in the exact same order that the game has predetermined you will find it. The first time I played this game, I was really excited and I was trying to find the medallions first, and like every time I realized I was like always in second place and it wasn't working out, and every time you replay this game you realize that's just how it is. You don't actually have any control over the game show, so that sucks all of the fun out of the game show. It's just lazy writing. So one of the plots, the game show plot, is messy, it doesn't work, and it doesn't make any sense. Let's move on to maybe the second plot, the Sunny plot, which, again, does not fit in nicely with the game show plot. So we have this game show that's just a front. So Nancy really spends hours solving puzzles for no particular reason other than they needed the game to take longer. And the contest will end the same way no matter what you do. Now, the Sunny plot involves him discovering secrets that his grandfather left behind, which requires him to find some sort of artifacts, but we never find out who put them there. Was it Jin who created this mystery for Sunny? Was it aliens? Because apparently his family believes in aliens. And if it was Jin or if it was aliens, I don't really care who. Why did they put it there? What does it mean? What was the point of this whole adventure anyway? We do not find out. So the Sunny plot ends up being completely unresolved. You have Jin and his comics and his notes that he's given to Sunny. We follow up on all of those, and at the end we find this artifact that does nothing. Nancy literally says at the end of this mystery, "I kind of think I don't want to know the answer." No! Since when is that the case, Nancy? That's not the point of a mystery. The point of a mystery is to find the answers, and that's literally the reason you exist. You hate leaving things unanswered, and that's why you always go after mysteries. This is lazy writing. It does not work. So the Sunny plot does not resolve, we get no concrete answers, and Nancy doesn't seem inclined at all to try and find those answers. We have the game show plot that doesn't work, and neither of them blend nicely with the other. They just do not fit in well together, and neither of them has a satisfactory ending. So, does this story hold up to scrutiny? No. Is it easy to follow? No. Is the plot original? For sure, but is it believable? No. Are there subplots? There really aren't. There are the two main plots, and we don't get any additional information from those. Maybe the subplot of Sunny and his relationship with his grandfather, but that really doesn't have a whole lot of sway. It doesn't have a whole lot of pull. And is this game cohesive? Absolutely not. It's sporadic, it's overly complicated, we don't get any resolutions, it's lazy writing. Unfortunately, this plot is just not good. And I had such high hopes for the story in this mystery. I thought it would be great, but man, is it a disappointment. I've been talking about it for a long time now, but unfortunately, I have to give Shattered Medallion a 1 out of 10 for plot. I know, harsh, but it has to happen. Next, let's move on to characters, which considers the character interaction and what it's like talking to the characters. Are they memorable? Are they fun? Do we enjoy them? Do we get anything useful from the character interaction? Now, Bess and George are back as physical characters in this game, so we get to talk to them. There is a couple that's competing in the show. That's Lena and Patrick. Lena is very smart and is kind of like a code breaker. Patrick does not seem particularly smart and yet somehow is deep. He is kind of philosophical and he sits in the same place the entire mystery and does not go and try and solve any of the puzzles for the game show. We have Kiri, who is a local New Zealander and is also in the game show, and she is essentially a reality TV star, so that's her job. She goes on a bunch of reality TV shows, and now she's on this one. And then we have Sunny June, and Sunny June was the biggest appeal of this game. It was super exciting to meet Sunny, and the very first conversation that we have with him is a conversation that Nancy could have with any other character. Why would you introduce Sunny June, this character that we've been following now for up to 30 games, up to this point, and then not let Nancy talk to him at all about why she has seen his name so much in the past? Who is following who, and why? Is Sunny following Nancy, or has Nancy been following Sunny this whole time? If Nancy is following Sunny, how did that happen? How did Sunny, know that Nancy would end up in the same places as him? How is that a thing? Why is that a thing? Why is that important? This would have been the perfect time to resolve this mystery, and the plot just lets it fall flat on its face. It does nothing with it. It does nothing to allow Nancy to confront Sunny about why she has seen him so many times. Sunny was honestly such a disappointment. I love how he looked. He looked really cool. The physical designs of the characters is totally fine, but their personalities and the interactions we have with them, particularly with Sunny, are so disappointing. Beyond Sunny, practically all of the character conversations that we have involve these random philosophical tangents that mean nothing to the actual case. Or it involves Nancy asking questions that no one ever actually answers. She'll ask a question and they'll basically say, no, I don't want to answer that. Why? If they don't want to answer that, then Nancy should be able to find the answer somewhere else or convince the person to tell her the answer. That's the point of a mystery. That's the point of character interaction, is the characters are supposed to tell us something. Otherwise, the characters just end up being useless in this game, which they are. Because again, they're not even real competitors. The game show will end the same way no matter what we do, and they are there essentially for the same reason that Nancy is there, is that Sunny has assembled them into some sort of team and they're supposed to solve this crisis for him. It just doesn't work. It's based on a faulty plot to begin with, and the character interaction does not make up for the faulty plot, it only reinforces it. Also, what is the deal with Bess's existential crisis, and why is she fawning over Sunny? This game took Bess, who is a fun, lovable, loyal friend who Nancy has relied on throughout so many of these mysteries and never had a problem with, and this mystery made her one-note boy crazy, whiny, and annoying. And this problem is solved, her existential crisis, by saving the day at the end, which, let's be real, anyone could have done. They just made it Bess. Why? What was the point of that? What was the point of making Bess so annoying in this mystery? Why couldn't you just keep Bess Bess? And what is the deal with having George as a character if you're just going to get rid of her within the first 5 minutes of the mystery and make her sleep for the rest of it? She isn't even one of the required team members that Sunny is assembling, so what is the point of having her there? Why go through the trouble of animating her, making her, if she's just going to sleep? It's so lazy. Definitely not okay. And the Culprit as a character. There is a sort of culprit, but why are they mad? At the very end of this mystery, the culprit talks about betrayal, but what betrayal are they even talking about? They have no motivation, and we have no clue, and it's never explained. The only possible explanation is that they are jealous, but even then, there's just no betrayal. We literally are just doing well at a game show. That's not betraying anyone. And we have not met the culprits before. We haven't met any of these people before. So what betrayal are they talking about? The culprit reveal is bad. The character interaction is bad. The only redeeming factor is that the characters themselves, the very base blueprint of the characters, is interesting. Patrick, the base character of him, is interesting. Lena, the base idea, is interesting. Kiri is interesting. Sunny is interesting. But none of them go anywhere. None of them justify their existence. They feel completely useless, and none of them actually give Nancy any information. She's not even really solving a mystery at this point. She's just wandering around New Zealand and happens to find the right answers. And it's like clues are dropped in her path. It's just so frustrating. It's very disappointing. And also, there's a ton of other characters in this game, but we don't actually see them. There are, I believe, like 10 different teams competing in this game show, and we never see any of the other characters. Like, not even in the background, not even moving around. You can listen to their confessionals, and that's it. That's how you even know that they're real people. But that's completely illogical. There's no way that Nancy would see only 3 of the other characters and not, like, run into them. There's no reason for that. So, just like the plot, there are so many things that are wrong and that do not go well that I can't possibly give it a good score. The only redeeming factor is that the ideas for all of the characters were actually solid. I just wish they would have been executed in completely different ways. So unfortunately, I have to give Shattered Medallion a 2 out of 10 for characters. Next, let's move on to setting and design, which considers where the mystery takes place and how that overall setting is incorporated into the mystery. So this mystery takes place in New Zealand, but honestly, the only thing that gave me New Zealand vibes were the books that we read about New Zealand and the team names. Otherwise, we could have literally been anywhere else with trees and grass, and the mystery would have been exactly the same. We were promised sheep. We were promised a lot of sheep in the trailer. New Zealand has a heavy sheep culture. Why we see 3 sheep and they barely move. They move their heads. That is not sheep. The only sheep that we actually get to interact with is a fake one that we have to shear at some point. And when Nancy is walking around, honestly, the graphics took a step backwards. None of the water is moving except for one waterfall, and none of the trees are moving. Like, they aren't blowing in the wind. There's no movement in the surrounding areas. So when Nancy is walking along, there's just like a stream that's doing nothing. There are leaves that are doing nothing. So there's no movement. The setting does not feel alive. It feels completely flat, which is something that the games have been steadily improving on, but they just do not improve on in this mystery. I will say, however, that the setting is very pretty. I love the different locations that we can go to. We go to like a pretty forested area. There's kind of a cool lake that we get to go in, and we actually get to go like under the water. There's a sheep shed that you can go to. The kind of campground area for the game show is actually like pretty cool. But then there are just things that don't work, like the static backgrounds. You have this weird puzzle hut that's been built for the game show apparently, but feels so superfluous, and like this random earthquake room. Like, why is that there? Why did you spend time and energy on that when you could have spent time and energy on maybe like having an actual earthquake happen? That would have been a lot more cool rather than having a weird little room do it. Like, what's the point of that? I don't understand. Like, the basics are there, and it's still a very pretty game, and I do still get some New Zealand vibes, but I just don't get nearly as much as I would like. And the fact that the graphics took a step backwards, in my opinion, makes me have to give setting and design a 6 out of 10. Next, let's move on to entertainment and gameplay value, which considers how fun a game is to play and how fun it is to replay. I will say that this game, the first time you play it, is fairly fun because it's very easy to get caught up in the fun of being on a Survivor-like game show the very first time that you play. Like I said, the first time I played this, I was like rushing around, I was trying to solve all of the puzzles first, I was trying to get all the medallions first, and I thought the reason I wasn't doing as well as I wanted was because I just wasn't being fast enough. But no matter how fast you are, no matter what you do, the game show ends the same way. So when you replay this game and you know that, it takes away all the stakes. I could do anything, but it doesn't matter. It has no relationship to how I will do in the overall game. So some of the puzzles are fun. Honestly, even on replay value, the kayak race, the submarine puzzle, mining for gold, little things like that, all those are pretty fun, and the puzzles themselves are not ridiculously hard. I think it's possible to solve all of the puzzles without getting too confused, and I do appreciate that. Like, there's possibility for you to be able to do it on your own. They're tricky, but they aren't daunting in a way. But all subsequent replays end up being considerably less fun because you know that it doesn't matter what you're doing. You could be good at solving puzzles, you could be horrible at solving puzzles, and your score will be the same either way. Also, half of the puzzles are completely illogical. Like the bridge puzzle, that is not how bridges are fixed, and it's silly to suspend logic in that way. We just can't do it. That's not how bridges would be fixed. Also, who created all the puzzles for the show if the production crew isn't there? That's too much work for Sunny to do alone, especially since he told us that he does not care one iota about the show and that it got hijacked. So all the puzzles maybe could have been set up beforehand, but it brings back the issue of why are we even finishing the puzzles if nobody is filming us? I don't know. This game is also riddled with a bunch of mini-games from previous games just to try and lengthen it. Like you can play Monster and Raid from the Captive Curse, and you can play a bunch of mini-games on your phone. Why? No, that is lazy. Don't populate my new game with 10 mini-games that you invented for earlier games. Be creative and come up with your own new mini-games. All of the puzzles in a game should be new. I don't think you should recycle old games. I think that is lazy. So while there are some fun aspects to this game, especially on your first play, subsequent replays are not as fun because you know nothing matters. And a lot of the puzzles just are weird. They don't make sense. They're illogical or they're lazy. So while there is some fun, there's not a ton of fun. So I give Shattered Medallion a 5 out of 10. And finally, we move on to the category of music and vibe, which considers the music of the game and the overall atmosphere of the game and how that supports the story overall. The music in this game is good. There hasn't been a Nancy Drew soundtrack that I have disliked. I think the music is always solid and it always adds a lot to the games. I will say that the music in this game is much quieter than previous games. Even when I bump up the volume all the way, it still seems very minimal and isn't really changing depending on what I'm doing in the game. The only thing that changes is that I get victory music every time you get part of a medallion, which is very similar to Treasure in the Royal Tower. Similar idea too. I mean, they're medallions, so finding the pieces gets you some victory music, but that's it. And it feels so fake, honestly. But the music is good. It doesn't feel particularly New Zealand-y to me, so it doesn't really enhance the setting at all. But the big issue I have with this is the vibe, because I'm not even sure what atmosphere this game is trying to convey. Is it trying to convey adventure? We don't really get any adventure out of this. The only kind of adventure we get is the forced George accident and then things randomly almost falling on Nancy, but there's no real explanation as to how those things happen. Were they natural or did somebody cause it? We don't get any follow-up on that. We don't get to figure that out. Is this game going for a vibe of like intrigue? I wouldn't say so. We don't get any answers to anything that we're curious about, so there's no resolution for the intrigue. And is it going for fear? Definitely not. This game isn't even remotely scary. Is it going for excitement? Maybe. Is it going for mysterious? Definitely not, because it's sunny and happy and everything happens within the course of one day, and that wouldn't happen on a reality TV show, but we never go to sleep. So, I don't even know what they're going for. And that's a big issue. What vibe are they trying to get me to feel? because I don't feel excited, I don't feel intrigued, I don't feel like I'm on an adventure, and I don't feel scared. I don't get hardly any adrenaline from this game whatsoever. And it's okay if you have a game that's a little bit more slow and a little bit like more cheerful. Games, we have had games like that in the series where it's just kind of a happier game and a little bit brighter. That's fine, because the vibe of those games is very clearly set forward, and we know that we're not supposed to be that scared and it's supposed to be a lighter game. Secret of the Old Clock, for example, we know exactly what we're supposed to be feeling. But this one, I feel like I'm supposed to be feeling adventurous, and I just don't, because the stakes are just not there. So I think I'm going to have to give this game a 4 out of 10 for music and vibe. So finally, we're going to add up our scores. We have a 1 for plot, 2 for characters, 6 for setting and design, 5 for entertainment and gameplay value, and 4 for music and vibe, with a total possible score of 18 out of 50 and a final grade of a F. An F for a Nancy Drew game. I have only awarded 3 Fs in the series up to this point. Creature of Capu Cave, Ransom of Seven Ships, and Shattered Medallion. And again, I would like to point out that I grade these games against each other. If I was grading Shattered Medallion as a game against other video games that are available to purchase, I would be giving it a higher grade. But in the context of all of the other Nancy Drew games, when we have so many amazing ones on offer, and you present something like this to us, something that's lazy, that's messy, and that's disappointing in so many ways, I think I have to be critical of it. This game was a huge, huge disappointment. This was the first one I pre-ordered. I was excited to meet Sunny. I was excited for an adventure game, and it just doesn't deliver on any of that. And the fact that it is so messy, after we've had several games in the last few iterations of the series that have such tight, beautiful, deep plots, and then you come up with this, it's just confusing to me. It feels like it was all thrown together within like a 3-month time span, and nobody actually looked at it to see, is this something that we should do? Should we try to squeeze a Sunny storyline into this New Zealand storyline? We have this big 30th mystery. Should we try and make this a good mystery, or should we just get it out there? It feels a lot like we should just get it out there. Do I recommend that you play this game? Sure. I think out of the Nancy Drew games, this is honestly my least favorite game, and I will be very upfront about that. I do still think it's worth playing, only because you get to see Sunny June, and because it's a Nancy Drew game, and I'm a completionist, and I believe that you should play all of the Nancy Drew games in the entire series in order to fully understand the context of all of the mysteries. But if you are trying to decide between this one and another one, there are better games in the series. This is honestly, in my mind, the worst game in the Nancy Drew series. While it has a couple positive elements, there's just so much that it could have done better. Should you still play it? Sure. Is it going to be the best Nancy Drew game you've ever played? Probably not. There are some that love it, but I just can't get there. And that's my honest opinion. Thank you for listening to this review, fellow detectives. I do hope you enjoyed it. Please feel free to like this review and leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. I'd be very curious to hear what you think about this game. Please also feel free to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more Nancy Drew content coming soon. In the meantime, thank you for listening. I will see you soon.